hanging by a single rope, frozen and exhausted. Tony Kurz saw his fate unfold in the most shocking way imaginable. Just feet from salvation, he uttered his final words before the mountain claimed him forever. The wind battered the rock face as a lone climber dangled from a rope high above the ground. He'd been there for hours, exposed to the freezing cold, his strength slowly fading. Below, a group of rescuers watched, willing to help, but unable to reach him. Tony Kurz had set out on his climb with his team just days earlier, fully aware of the risks. The Eiger's north face is known to be one of the most challenging and dangerous routes in the Alps. Many had attempted it before him, and not all had made it back. Now, he found himself alone, suspended in midair, battling exhaustion and the harsh conditions. Rescue efforts had been underway for hours, but each attempt had met with complications. The mountain's steep and icy terrain made it nearly impossible to get close enough, and as time passed, the situation became even more critical. Although he was conscious, still fighting to survive. But with his strength fading, the question remained, could he hold on long enough for help to reach him? Tony hadn't ended up in the Eiger by chance. He was quite an experienced climber and also part of a skilled team attempting what many considered one of the most dangerous ascents in the Alps. Born in Germany, he had a strong background in mountaineering, developing his skills on challenging peaks all throughout Europe. By the time he set his sights on the Eiger's north face, he was confident in his abilities and prepared for the challenge. In the summer of 1936, Kurz and his three fellow climbers, Andreas, Willie, and Edie, set out to make history. The North Face had already claimed lives, but they believed their teamwork and experience would carry them to the summit. The plan was ambitious, but carefully thought out. Their climb started well, with the team making steady progress up the near vertical rock face. They relied on technical skill and precise rope work, navigating the treacherous sections with caution. However, the North Face had a reputation for turning against climbers without warning. Rising 3,967 meters above the Swiss Alps, the Eiger is both an iconic and infamous peak. While its slopes appear inviting from a distance, the North Face tells a different story. Towering nearly 1,800 meters, the sheer wall of rock and ice has been one of the most challenging routes in mountaineering history. By 1936, no climber had successfully made it to the top and back down alive. The North Face is unpredictable, with rock falls, sudden storms, and near-constant ice formations that make even the best-planned climbs dangerous. Nicknamed the Mordwind or Murder Wall, it had already taken the lives of those who had attempted it before Kurz and his team arrived. And yet, despite its dangers, it remained a tempting challenge, one that many sought to conquer. Kurz and his team knew the risks, but they believed in their abilities. As they made their way higher, the Eiger remained eerily quiet. However, conditions on the mountain could change in an instant. Soon, the four climbers would find themselves in a fight for survival, one that would push them to their absolute limits. As they ascended, conditions began to shift, and soon they were facing obstacles no amount of preparation could overcome. At first, the team moved with great efficiency, using their experience and skill to navigate the Eiger's steep and unforgiving rock face with millimeter precision. One of their greatest assets was Andreas, known for his technical climbing ability. When they reached a nearly impassable section of smooth rock, he performed a daring traverse, securing a rope that allowed the entire team to cross safely. It was a critical moment in their climb, a testament to their expertise. However, as they continued upward, the weather took a sudden turn. Clouds rolled in, temperatures dropped, and snow began to fall, coating the rock and ice. Progress slowed and visibility worsened. Realizing the dangers ahead, they made the difficult decision to turn back. But as they retraced their steps, they discovered a fatal mistake. Andreas's rope traverse had been removed, leaving them with no safe way across. Now trapped high on the mountain, they searched for an alternate route, but the conditions were deteriorating fast. Snowstorms, falling ice, and exhaustion began to take their toll. One by one, disaster struck the team, and soon, Tony would find himself completely alone, left to battle the mountain by himself. As the storm intensified, the team had no choice but to descend. Visibility was near zero, and the temperature continued to drop. Every moment was a battle against the freezing wind and accumulating snow. The conditions turned the already treacherous terrain into a deadly trap. During the descent, another disaster struck. Willie, who had suffered an injury from falling rock earlier in the climb, was now struggling to continue. His condition worsened as they attempted to retreat. While making their way down, a misstep led to tragedy. One of the climbers lost control, pulling the entire team into a devastating fall. They tumbled down the icy slopes, the rope snapping tight against the rock face. When the fall finally stopped, 3 of the 4 climbers had been killed instantly. Tony, though badly injured, was the only one left alive. But he was now alone, dangling from a rope high above the ground, trapped in one of the most dangerous places on the mountain. As daylight broke, rescuers spotted him, but reaching him would be another challenge altogether, and time was running out. Clutching his rope high above the snow-covered slopes, Tony was still alive, but his situation was dire. He was suspended in midair, unable to climb up or descend, with his teammates lifeless beside him. The freezing wind battered his body, and exhaustion had begun to take hold. At first light, a group of rescuers spotted him through the clearing storm. Hope surged through the team. They had a chance to save him. But reaching him was another challenge entirely. The terrain was too steep and unstable for a direct approach, so they had to work their way up from below. It was a slow, grueling process, and Tony had to endure the elements for hours as he waited. Using every ounce of strength, he tried to help himself by adjusting his position and securing his rope. But frostbite had set in, and his hands were hardly functional. The rescuers eventually managed to get close enough to lower a rope to him, giving him a chance to climb down to safety. But as he struggled to attach himself to the new rope, tragedy struck again. His fingers were too frozen to tie the necessary knots. The rescuers could only watch in horror as he made one final attempt, his voice weak as he uttered his last words. "I can't go on." With no way to pull himself free, Tony's body finally gave in. The rescuers could do nothing but watch as he slipped into unconsciousness. Tony remained suspended on the north face, his body motionless. The rescuers, exhausted and devastated themselves, had no choice but to retreat. There was nothing they could do. By the next morning, Tony had succumbed to the cold, still hanging where he had fought so hard to survive. His tragic death sent shockwaves through the world of mountaineering. The failed rescue highlighted the brutal reality of high-altitude climbing. Sometimes, even the best efforts just aren't enough. In the years that followed, Tony's story became a haunting reminder of the North Face's deadly reputation. But his death also led to important changes, shaping the future of mountain rescue techniques. The story remains one of the most heartbreaking tragedies in mountaineering history, testament to the mountain's unforgiving nature. Tony's final moments are forever etched into the legacy of the North Face.